All right, Chef Robert, what are we cooking today?
Today we're having turkey cutlets, wild rice stuffing, baked sweet potatoes with a maple yogurt sauce, and some homemade apple cranberry dressing.
Ooh, yummy.
Everybody knows Thanksgiving is one of the most gluttonous holidays of the season. So we decided to try to make it a little healthier for anybody that wanted to go and experiment a little and do things a little healthier. So instead of doing like a whole turkey that has the skin and all the thigh meat and everything like that, we chose a nice lean turkey breast. I took the whole breast and I just cut it down, as I was explaining to Catherine, I just cut it down into thirds, just kind of cut it into triangles. They typically sell turkey cutlets at the store. You buy packages of just turkey cutlets. What we like to do is just pound them out a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our cranberry sauce, because we're going to do that and let that cool a little bit. Basically all the cranberry sauce is we got some fresh cranberries, a little bit of apple juice concentrate. I chose a natural apple juice. Part of Hyatt's philosophy is the food thoughtfully sourced, carefully served. So we try to go with all natural products. And the three pillars of food thoughtfully sourced, carefully served are a healthy planet, community, and people. So what we're trying to do is trying to, through the Health and Wellness Committee, we're trying to make everything just that much healthier. So we chose apple juice concentrate, which is pretty sweet on its own. I chose one that has no sugar in it, no added sugar. That way you can adjust the sugar to whatever tartness of a cranberry you like. With the sugars, I chose sugar in the raw, which is kind of an unprocessed sugar. It's a little healthier, a little more, a little easier for the body to digest. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the apple juice concentrate and your cranberries, and you're just going to put them in your pan, and all you're going to do with the cranberry sauce, with the cranberries to make cranberry sauce. I'm using fresh cranberries here. All you're going to do is just put that in there, and you're just going to let that simmer until the cranberries start bursting, and then you just pull it off the heat and just let that residual heat continue to cook it. All right, come on in. So we're just going to let those simmer down. You can already see here, you can already see they're starting to crack open a little bit from the heat. And that's what you're looking for. And we're just going to simmer those a little bit. And you're just going to simmer those, and they're going to crack, and they're going to start to break down a little bit. All the cranberry sauces you see at the store are really processed. They cook them with a lot of sugar. It's very sweet.
Like jelly.
Yeah, it's like a jam or a jelly, actually. And they have a lot of preservatives in them too. This is pretty natural. It's just fresh cranberries, apple juice concentrate, little bit of sugar to adjust however your sweetness is. Cranberries are very, very, very tart, so it typically does take a little extra sugar to get there. But with this, if you like tart food, you can control your sugars. So we're just going to let that simmer a little bit. We're going to turn this heat down a little bit. And if you get to the point where all your liquids evaporate out and you want some, I have a little bit of stock here. You can add a little bit of stock to it. You can add just a little bit of water. This is just a little bit of chicken broth. You can add whatever you want. You can add veggie broth. You can add just water, wine, however you want to cook that down. So basically we're just going to let that simmer for probably about 10 minutes or so. While that's simmering, we're going to go ahead and get our stuffing started. I chose for the stuffing to do a whole wheat and wild rice stuffing. Basically all I did was cubed up some bread, little cubes, and then I dried it out overnight. I just set it in the oven and dried it out. We're going to take a little bit of onion, a little bit of celery, and a little bit of garlic. And we're just gonna let that sweat down a little bit. While that's going, we're gonna stir these up a little bit. Now you can see that's gotten pretty thick already with the natural sugars in the apple juice. It's already starting to thicken up and get a little bit syrupy. And those cranberries are falling apart real nice.
Can you eat the cranberries like the skin as well?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So they're all good, nice and soft and falling apart. And that's right about where you're gonna stop. So what we'll do is we'll give that just a little taste. Yeah, it is pretty tart. So we'll just sprinkle a little of sugar in there, and we'll just bring it back up to a simmer real quick and just let that dissolve in there. And we'll just let that simmer up just a bit more. Over here you got your celery, onions, garlic. Basically all you want to do is sweat that down a little bit till the celery and the onions start going opaque. We chose, for everything in the cooking that I'm doing today, I'm using extra virgin olive oil. I was actually reading an article that says you reduce your risk by about for heart disease by about 25% by switching over like all your butters and your margarines to extra virgin olive oil because of the monounsaturated fats in it. All the saturated fats that you consume build in your arteries. Think about this: when you melt butter and you let it sit at room temperature, what happens to it? It just solidifies again. Rub that on your hands, and it doesn't melt very well. So think about that going into your body. Your body temperature is 98.6 degrees. When that gets in your body, if your hands can't melt it, your body's not going to be able to melt it either. So it just kind of sits there and builds in your arteries and ends up clogging everything up over the long run. Whereas your unsaturated fats, then we got onions, celery, garlic. We're going to add our rice in here. I like to add more rice than bread. And then we're going to add a little bit of stock to this.
What kind of rice is that?
What's that?
What kind of rice is that?
It's a wild rice. It's when you get it at the store, it's just black in color, just a wild rice. I chose an organic wild rice. It's processed a lot more. All right, you see that it's gotten really thick. We're just going to pull that off and just let that cool down. So then with this stuffing, I chose to go with some dried fruits and nuts in the stuffing. So right after I add the rice and the broth, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some nuts in here. A little bit of dried cherries. And some dried apricots. And basically what you're doing is you're just looking to rehydrate those a little bit. Once those start rehydrating, you can add a little more stock if you need to. Like I say, I prefer more rice. If I'm making a wild rice stuffing, I prefer more rice. Again, because it's like not all the carbs and everything that's going to convert back down to sugars when you're sitting around. The rice is, it's also gluten-free. I mean, we're adding bread that has gluten in it, but it's, if you were just to do the wild rice with the fruits and let that cook down, it would be a gluten-free kind of stuffing, but we are going to add some bread. First, we'll add a little touch of sage. Everybody's used sage for Thanksgiving. I brought some fresh sage down so you guys can see it and smell it. And enjoy a little sensory perception. And then to this broth, I'm just going to add some breadcrumbs. Some people like to do this, Pepperidge Farm. It's already chopped, dried, ready to go. Some people prefer the old school method, cubing up some bread, letting it dry, let this dry overnight in the oven. So then basically all I'm going to do is toss in some bread. And if you want, I'm going to toss in just a little bit of this. Will help absorb some of that moisture. And then you're just gonna toss it up a little bit. And you're gonna let that absorb all that moisture. A lot of people put butter in their stuffing. Again, I recommend just a little shot of the olive oil over the top. And you just turn that heat down a little bit. And you just stir that around. If all your bread hasn't soaked up the juice, you can add a little more juice if it's still dry. What I like to do is I like to make mine a little bit wet and then pop it in the oven and it gets all crunchy. And there we have some stuffing. It looks something like that. You can let it sit and just wrap it. And that bread will continue soaking all that steam and get nice and soft. And like I say, I like to just take it.
Yeah, no kidding.
I like to just take this and wrap it up in a little plastic and foil wrap and put it in the oven and bake it, and then the edges get all nice and crispy. And that's one of my favorite parts of stuffing, is the little bit of crispiness and stuff like that.